So it's time for number 41 in my series of video game movie reviews, with an adaptation that has more or less absolutely nothing to do with the beloved character of the series that it's based on. I wonder how that's gonna work out for them. Halo Nightfall is brought to us by director Sergio Mimica Gazan and stars Mike Colter as Agent Locke. After the events of Halo 3, the human race and the Covenant are at peace. Kinda. It's more of a ceasefire. The Covenant aren't trying to wipe us out anymore. We just all kind of keep to our own places now. When a Covenant elite smuggles a mysterious virus onto the human colony planet Cedra and release it upon the population, it's up to Locke and his team to find the cure. Through a course of events, they track down its origin to the remnants of the blown up Halo ring from the first Halo video game. There's just like a piece of it that's a few miles long just floating around out there next to a sun. So they decide to go there, figure out who it is that's bringing this disease off of the ring, and destroy the rest of the ring so that this terrible virus can't get out there to anyone else. The problem is, apparently this leftover blown up part of the ring is a bit too close to the sun. So at night, which lasts about 18 hours, everything's cool. I mean, you can walk around no problem. But during the day, the temperature gets up to somewhere around 930 degrees, and that's not so hot. Or actually, it's really fucking hot, and that's kind of the problem. So they set off to go to the remnants of the original Halo ring and hopefully save the people of Cedra and the entirety of the human race. Halo Nightfall came out in the lead up to the Halo 5 video game. While it is one single movie, it was broken up into 5 parts and released as a miniseries. However, now, the vast majority of the places that you can view it, it is put together as just one single movie. And that is the way that I'll review it today. This movie was meant to be the introduction of the new character to the universe, Agent Locke, played by Mike Colter in this movie and in the game. Unbeknownst to everyone who is really looking forward to the arrival of Halo 5, Locke was going to end up playing a much larger role in that game than we all thought. So much of a larger role that you actually played the vast majority of the game as Locke and not longtime favorite protagonist, the Master Chief. You can imagine that this rubbed some people the wrong way. I do think the developers were originally trying to do something like they did with Halo 2. When we first played that game, we didn't know that you were going to get to play as one of the Covenant Elite as well. But that game did a much better job of balancing the two. You play a level as the Chief, then you play a level as the Arbiter, and it kind of went back and forth as the game went on. That and the Arbiter Elite was a much more interesting character than Locke is. All that aside though, when this came out, we didn't know that that was the case. We did all know that Locke was going to be a part of it from the promotional materials, but we didn't know he was going to be such a large part of it. Now, Halo 5 is one of the most divisive games out there. It probably got more hate than any other Halo game that's ever come out. And a lot of that hate was directed at the character of Locke. So you can imagine that this movie isn't really viewed in the best light by most of the Halo fans. And while I will admit that I thought Halo 5 was a weaker part of the saga, I didn't think it was terrible or anything. I mean, it definitely had its weak spots and doesn't stand up to some of the earlier entries, but I mean, it was okay. I could have definitely dealt with a lot more Chief and a lot less Locke, but as a whole, it was an alright game. So I'm going to review this movie as just that, a movie, a standalone movie. Everything that happens in Halo 5 aside, I'm going to view this movie as just that, a movie. This story contained unto itself. And it's okay. This movie's got a lot of things going for it. You got Ridley Scott as a producer, you got Mike Colter before he actually blew up as Luke Cage, some pretty high production values for something that's not a major Hollywood movie, and what seems like a bit of a freedom to tell a story within this beloved universe that hasn't been told before or already known by its fans. Our story as a whole is fairly basic. They do dress it up a bit to make it seem a bit more complex than it really is, but no, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Virus gets loose, this is the place it originated, and we need that in order to make a cure. Go there to get it, meet some opposition, get out of there, save the human race. Fairly simple. I don't really have a problem with the story, but its execution at times does drag. As a whole, it was decently entertaining. It never totally lost me, but there were some times that I was looking at my watch thinking, okay, let's get rolling here again. Also, given what it's based on, you would think that this would be more of an action-oriented type of movie. And it does have its action parts, but a fair amount of it plays more into a horror type of film than anything. This movie reminded me a lot lot of pitch black. The whole being stuck on a desolate planet, having to find your way across a landscape to get to a specific place so that you can escape. All the while, there's mysterious creatures on your tail that can't necessarily see you outright. Shortly after arriving on what's left of the Halo ring, our soldiers find the smugglers that have been mining the virus. Now during all this, their ship that's kind of hovering about that has this bomb that they're gonna blow the remnants of the Halo ring up and also get them out of there in time, crashes on the other side of what's left of the ring. And this leads me into one of my biggest issues with the movie. Our characters make the decision to trek all the way across the remnants of this ring to get to their downed craft so that they can retrieve the bomb, come all the way back to the smuggler ship, leave the planet, and detonate the bomb to complete their mission. Now I get it, you're wanting to complete your mission, but I feel like the most important part of your mission is getting whatever it is that came off of this planet so you can devise a cure and getting the fuck home. Why in the fuck are you gonna trek all the way across this ring with this menace out there that's trying to track you down and already took down a whole entire fucking spaceship so that you could turn the fuck around and come all the way back? Why not just get in this fucking ship, leave, get another ship, come back, get your bomb then because you're mobile and you know what's going on, you have a better lay of the land, drop that bitch off, get what you need, blow that shit the fuck up and you're on your way home. This makes no fucking sense. Their whole pilgrimage across this motherfucker is totally irrelevant. It is ridiculous. There's no reason they couldn't have waited one fucking day, which by their own accord lasts 16 hours, instead of needlessly risking everyone's life to get all the way over there and back. It's fucking stupid. I mean, I guess if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't have a movie, but I feel like they should have given them some extra motivation to have to go there before they came back. Not just the fact that they want to get this fucking bomb, when they could just turn around, be delayed by 16 fucking hours, one single day cycle, come back safe as can be and blow the motherfucker up and complete their mission with minimal casualties. Now some might say, well, the smuggler ship can only fit 2 people, and that is a big arc in the movie. But I feel like instead of wasting all their time trying to get across this fucking ring, if they had spent more time trying to figure out a way to get more people on this fucking ship, they could have figured that out together and gotten the fuck out of there safely. But oh well, once again, I guess you wouldn't have a movie if they'd done that. And yes, I can suspend disbelief when it comes to movies, but I just felt like this plot point was really in your fucking face. The whole time they're walking across there, I'm like, why? Why the hell are you doing this? This fucking thing has been floating around for years. According to them, it was built hundreds of thousands of years ago, so it's been there for a long fucking time. I think it can last one more fucking day before you come back to fucking annihilate it. But all that aside, what we do get is a fairly good action horror adventure of these people trying to make it from here to there, with a menacing monster on their tails all along. The creature, or technically creatures, in question would be hunter worms. They're not in their form that we're used to seeing them here. In the games and the previous movie, Forward Unto Dawn, they look like this. They're a hive mind collection of worms that come together to make forms, and that's why they look like this guy right here. But in this movie, they do go around independently and come together as kind of this wave that goes around and mimics things and just kind of attacks. And this particular one, for some reason, is attracted to technology, so they have to turn off all their high-tech equipment that they have. Admittedly, this monster and the dynamic of it being fairly unstoppable, but they can distract it with technology at any given time, is a pretty neat idea. It's nothing totally original. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before, but it was pretty neat. But it didn't change the fact that there were still times, even during these moments, that the movie did just kind of drag a bit. It never totally drags it down to absolute boredom, but it teeters on that edge more times than I would like throughout the film. Overall, Halo Nightfall's story is okay and does have some interesting elements, but it could have been tightened up just a bit. From the performance side, we're not doing too bad here. Everybody more or less gives fairly solid performances here. This ain't no Oscar work or anything, but especially for a video game movie, these are pretty good performances. Mike Colter does a really good job as the stoic, honorable, honest soldier. And while all the other characters involved here are fairly unmemorable, and most of them are just there for cannon fodder, as a whole, they all do pretty good with what they got. Now, somewhere the movie does really shine is its technical side. This movie looks really good for what it was going for. There's very few kinks in the armor here. This movie looks high dollar, especially the costume and weapon design. This stuff looks legit. As I said about the previous Halo movie, Forward Unto Dawn, their costume design looked really good as well. However, here, it even trumps that. These suits and all the armor and the weapons and really everything they have here just looks really fucking good. The set design itself is also pretty good. I mean, we don't have a lot of variety here. In the beginning parts of the movie, when we're on Cedra, things are pretty cool looking. They do a good job of convincing us that this is a future human colony on another planet. However, the vast majority of the movie takes place on the Halo ring, and while some of the environments are kind of interesting, it's supposed to be kind of a burnt out wasteland. So that's what you got for the vast majority of this movie, is just kind of this burnt out landscape. It more or less looks like they're walking around on lava rock for the vast majority of the time. And I mean, it looks pretty neat, but after a while, it does kind of get just more of the same. It doesn't look bad or anything, but it is what it is. It's just a burn up fucking landscape. The actual look of the film is really well done too. This is not a cheap looking movie in the slightest. And they even get a little creative with some of their angles and some of the way that their shots are composed throughout the film. Now, their CGI effects, for the most part, are actually pretty good. Any of the mechanical things that they showed, like ships and things like that flying around, that all looks really good. But when it comes to the more organic creatures that it uses CGI for in the movie, some of the cracks begin to show. Now, there's really only two creatures that are CGI in this film. That would be the Elite from the beginning of the movie and the Hunter Worms themselves. Now, when the Hunter Worms are one thing just kind of going all over the place, it's so foreign and alien looking, it's fine. That looks good, it's very believable. And a lot of the time, it's kind of kept in the shadows anyway. The individual worms themselves are very hit or miss. I will say that the vast majority of the time they look pretty good. Once again, much of the time they are shrouded in shadow. But every now and then we get some of them that are in a higher lit area, and they don't look terrible, but they don't look great either. It does kind of stand out. Now, the Elite from the beginning of the movie is kind of the same thing. This character, when shrouded in shadow, looks actually really good. There's a scene where Mike Coulter and this Elite character are fighting kind of in a shadowy sewer, and that looks pretty cool. It's all kind of lit up by the glow of his energy sword, and it's really well done. I really like the way that looks. But when we see this creature outside walking around, something about it just looks really off. It may have just been the actual way that they animated it. The movement was off. I don't know, but it definitely stood out and it didn't look good. Now, there are a lot less of these shots in the film than the ones that actually work, so overall, I will say that the effects, CGI or otherwise, are all pretty good here. And as a whole, from a technical perspective, this movie does shine. Halo Nightfall was an interesting movie that I think they took a gamble on, and it didn't quite pay off. They tried to construct something interesting with some money behind it and some well-known names to try and introduce this character to the world, hoping that he would take off, and it just didn't quite work. I do think that some of the hate that this movie gets does come from the divisive nature of the Halo 5 game that it precedes, especially the fact that many of the issues that people have with Halo 5 center on Locke himself, and he is the center of this movie. But as a movie all on its own, Nightfall was okay. It wasn't that bad, and if you're a Halo fan that can look past all that Halo 5 nonsense, I think there's a chance that you'll find something here to like. It's got some solid performances and does a really good job technically to bring this world that we've seen in video game form for so many years to life. However, the story and its execution is probably the biggest shortcoming of all here. If they had just tightened it up some, I think that this would have been a more successful film, and because of that, Halo Nightfall is worth checking out on streaming.
Across the street.
This movie wasn't as bad as a lot of people would lead you to believe. I'm not saying it's the greatest video game movie ever made either. It's definitely not that. But it does have its pluses, and if you take it for what it is, it's a decent enough time. So if you're a fan of the Halo universe, check out Nightfall one night, and I don't think you'll be too disappointed. So there it is, guys, my review of Halo Nightfall. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Cedra. So what's next on the video game movie review list? Oh, I really like this series, but honestly, I had no fucking idea they made a movie based on it. It's alright. I'm sure it'll be fine. Fuck.